Hello, you lovely people. It's me, the Critical Drinker.
Hello, I'm here too.
Yeah, and Mahler's here also, yeah. Or at least it's my avatar and a voice which you have to take my word for it is not just an AI talking to you.
Very advanced AI.
Wait a minute, that's exactly the sort of thing an AI would say.
Did you see Echo Chamberlain's AI Nerdrotic?
I was about to say, his one, the Nerdrotic one is spot on. It is uncanny. Yeah. My one sounds like a retarded, like London stockbroker or something. It's so weird how the voice just the tone of the voice, like the intonation, is exactly right. It's just the accent is all over the place. It's good to know I can't be replicated.
The robots need a bit more time.
Yeah, give them a few more samples, but yeah, it's good to know that right now they can't copy me, so I'm still unique in the world. So that's all good. Also, what is unique is all the fantastic super chats that were sent to us the other night on Open Bar, and obviously we didn't get through them all because there's just too many, and that is a good problem to have. But now is the time. Now's the time for us to rise up and take on these super chats and see if we can answer your questions.
Yes, it is.
All right. The first one is Brent Neindorf, who says, do you think a short pre-movie message would work to have the studio present causes that they think are important? Then movies might not be so woke. So basically get it all out of their system before the film actually starts.
I don't know if that would create more of a... Like, if we go to the cinema and there's just like a 5-minute speech at the beginning for the director being like, you see, climate change is important, because... And we just be like, I'm just going to come to the film late, I guess.
If it was skippable or something,
well, then nice. They would never want to do it that way at that point, would they?
Well, yeah, I'm just kind of thinking, like, how can you satisfy your ESG requirements while also just like not imposing it upon your audience? It's just like, hey, would you like to know more about these causes that we think are important?
Yeah, and then for the record, there are plenty of causes that can be real great to make more awareness of. It's just that like the simple concept of I want to go watch an action movie, and then it's like, yes. But have you heard about greenhouse gases? You're like, okay.
I think most of the writers working in Hollywood now as well, they wouldn't be satisfied with that. I don't think they could even write a script unless they had the opportunity to work all this stuff in and force you to listen to it. So yeah, I don't think it would be feasible to do that, sadly. But yeah, nice idea though. I like that. Danish cartoonist says, Mahler, will you go back on the Jack show someday?
Sure, why not?
Thank you. Rottweiler says, your review for Godzilla -1 was on point. It was indeed a breath of fresh air after the Monsterverse went full Michael Bay, kid-friendly, following Godzilla 2014. The best Godzilla movie in recent years after Shin. Yeah, Shin Godzilla, that gets a good write-up from a lot of people as far as I understand it.
I'm gonna watch it soon. It's out soon for the Britains, correct?
It is the 15th, I think it comes out here, so not long to wait.
You know what comes out in like a day and a half now?
No.
I don't know if you've heard. God of War Ragnarok DLC.
Ooh,
and it's free.
Okay.
And apparently they want you to make sure you complete the campaign because there's story stuff in it.
I see. Well, that'll be interesting to play, actually. Yeah. These DLCs can be hit and miss. Like sometimes they really flesh out the story, add you some great stuff. Other times it's just like, why did you do that? But no, I've got a lot of confidence in the studio after Ragnarok. So
same, man.
Just out of curiosity, just going back to this super chat here, what did you think of Godzilla 2014? I can't believe it's that old.
I've always said, and I haven't seen it now in so long, but I've always said I really like the first half and I don't like the second half. So to try and remember what I actually felt at the time, I think it was I really liked the tone. I loved Bryan Cranston. I thought he was great in it. Like he was just acting up a storm, which is expected, I guess. And the character, and I was quite invested in his story, right? Like, wasn't it his wife got killed because of the eruption and like awakening of one of the monsters? And he's always been trying to figure out what they hid about it.
Yeah, it was like the meltdown at the nuclear plant, and he had to seal her inside.
Yeah, and the government never explained what happened, and he's been trying to find out his whole life, or whatever. Like that to me was more to go on than what you get most of the time in. Well, maybe not now because of -1, but a lot of Godzilla movies I watch, the people suck, and so watching him, just that was enough for me to be like, this is kind of interesting.
I just felt like the whole origin of these creatures was just rendered really convoluted by this, because it was like, okay, Godzilla is like this you know 100 million-year-old creature that like is an apex predator that culls other species and stuff, and every so often he gets awoken from his slumber. But also these things can be created by nuclear energy and stuff, and they can be mutated from other animals, and they also feed on radiation. And I'm like, oh, what is this? Like, just give us a simple thing. Like in the fucking original one, it's just like he's an animal that gets mutated by nuclear radiation from an atomic bomb test. That's it. It's goofy, but it's really simple, and you can understand it. With this, it's like the script couldn't quite decide on what the origin was supposed to be.
King Ghidorah as well. He's from space. He's not from Earth, as far as I remember.
I mean, probably. Why not? Let's have him be from another dimension as well.
No, yeah, I get what you mean. I've never been huge into Godzilla, but I appreciate what they get up to in each of the films. Roland Emmerich one, of course, is the best one. It's hard.
I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, Matthew Broderick was so happy to be in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Top notch.
I'm sure. Yeah, I think this is the Japanese studio that makes the Godzilla movies, Toho. They were so offended by the shitty American version that they actually came back out of semi-retirement and made another Godzilla movie with like all the Mecha Godzilla and all that stuff. And the American one is in it, and it's really small, and it gets wiped out with like the first bit of atomic breath or something from the real Godzilla. It's just their way of saying, "Yeah, fuck you."
Yeah, he's weird looking, and he's too small, and they try to make it so that he's protecting, he's just trying to give, or is trying to give birth or whatever, right?
Yeah. So, and when all the military are shooting at it, like none of them can hit it, even though it's like the size of
until it gets wrapped up on a bridge, and then they can hit it.
Yeah,
for some reason. It's not to do with the fact that it's the end of the film, and that's why they can kill it.
Yeah, it's like, what else?
And then they have their like rip off Jurassic Park section with the Velociraptor Godzillas.
Yeah.
And they beat them by like throwing candy balls on the floor, and they trip up on them.
Oh yeah. 10 out of 10, best movie I've ever seen.
Jean Reno is in it, and he's a French mercenary or something. It's so weird.
Yeah. It's like, how was this guy was in Leon?
I don't know what's going on.
Doing this? Why? Why? Angry Basandi says, question for the Longoid. I'm about to start a podcast on the history of heavy metal with a friend. Any advice on how to keep motivated over time?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's the one whenever I answer, I'm always like, this is very person specific. And I'm a bit weird with this. I get asked by basically everybody, how do I stay motivated, including all the creators I'm friends with, because apparently I'm one of the ones that stays the most motivated in the face of a horrible, horrible task. For example, 6 months of chopping, clicking, moving, chopping, clicking, moving. 6 months is a long time when it's that. Especially the most fun parts, right? Like the recording or even the writing. Like these are all much more creative performance and expression parts. But when you've got to chop and 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 chop, move, audio or visual files, it gets really boring. And stay motivated on that. I'm still human, by the way. I'll have moments where I'm doing it and I'm just like, I just can't do this right now. And then I'll have to play a video game or watch a movie or hang out with someone to regain my humanity, because it can get difficult. So other than giving you generic advice like that, like make sure you break it up with other things, and make sure you remind yourself of why you're doing it. Stay passionate about the subject. Remind yourself that there are things you want to get said that need to be out there in the world. I don't know. It can be really tough. You need to tailor make it for individuals. Like, do you have this problem, drinker? What's your solution?
Well, I think everything you just said is completely nonsense, to be honest, because we all know you're not human. In fact, you don't have humanity that you have to regain. So, I mean, I don't have the same problem in that, my videos take just a few days to make rather than, 6 months. So the best thing I can liken it to is writing a novel, which does take 6 or 7 or 8 months. And yeah, like I experienced the same thing, especially when you're in that midpoint. Like when the first month or so is great because it's like you're starting a new story and it's all very exciting. And the last month or so, you're on the home stretch. So like, again, you can look forward to finishing it. But that middle bit is the grind. And yeah, there's definitely days where you think, I just can't be arsed with this today. I'm tired and I've done a whole bunch of other things. And the last thing I want to do now is sit down for the next 3 hours in front of my computer screen and just peck away. But I don't know. The best way to look at it is you're accomplishing something. Like every word that you get down on that page is another little accomplishment, and it's another little step towards completion. And I think that is how you ultimately complete a gigantic task like this. You don't try not to look at it in its entirety. You break it down into smaller tasks. In the case of writing a novel, it might be getting to the end of the next chapter or the end of the next scene. All of those things are just little tiny steps on the way to getting your work complete. And that, I think, helps you. It helps you feel like a sense of progression when you've completed a task, rather than saying, oh, I'm only a tiny percentage of the way towards the overall finished product. So that's how I try to do
agree.
it. You do it one little tiny step at a time. Unbridled Mayo says, for the panel, would you still rate Sisu as one of the best of 2023? Also, drinker, have you heard of Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey? Very smooth. I have heard of that, actually. Never tried it. I don't know if we can get it in this country, but I've heard about it, and it sounds outlandish. But I'm always willing to try new stuff when it comes to drink. Sisu, I don't know if I'd rate it as one of the best of the year. I think it's more a case of, oh my god, they made like a really competent, really fun action movie on a tiny budget, and it's just a movie that works. I don't know what to say. Like, it's a pretty simple concept, but I think that's all you need sometimes when it comes to action movies, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, looking actually about the other movies that we had this year, I mean, I would put Godzilla -1 up there as one of the best, Oppenheimer as one of the best. So yeah, this is probably in the top 5, I would say, of movies that I've seen this year. It's been a pretty grim year for movies, I don't mind saying. Michael Barry says, Mauler, I'm going to play Dark Souls. Should I play Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls Remastered? Also, what are both of your lads' top 3 favorite Anthony Hopkins films?
All right, so first question, it's probably safer to go with Remastered right now because I think it's more stable. But if you're into modding and you know your way around a PC, like the files that are required to get all that shit going, then it might be better to do DS1. You're going to want to look at a subreddit post for it. Like, literally Google DS1 or DS1 Remastered and then Reddit, and you'll find people doing extensive breakdowns with strong advice from people who know the games in inside and out.
As for the other one, do you want to go first or should I?
So, top 3 Anthony Hopkins movies. Well, The Father's going to be one of them. Do you want to go back and forth? Okay. Or
well, I mean, yeah, like Silence of the Lambs is the obvious one, isn't it? I mean, when it comes to like level of performance and creating like a truly chilling villain, it's got to be right up there, I guess.
Remains of the Day is one of the ones I love from him.
Yep. The Edge is one that always stuck with me. I think it's him and Alec Baldwin, and they're two guys who crash out in the Alaskan wilderness. They got to survive, and Anthony Hopkins is like an author, and he's a guy who just retains information extremely well. Like, he's not got any experience of survival practically, but he's just learned a great deal, and he's able to apply that to the situation that they're in. And I really like his nice understated performance from him, which is kind of his style. But yeah, I'd probably put that as one of them.
Well, yeah, there's a good selection.
There was one more, I think, for you.
Oh, we'll go with Mask of Zorro, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a nice little choice. I like that one. I'll also say he was in Bridge Too Far. He was playing one of the paratroopers that had to capture the Nijmegen Bridge, and he was just excellent in that. Like, great. Like, that was a star-studded cast. I mean, you had like Michael Caine, Sean Connery, Anthony Hopkins, like Gene Hackman, like the Robert Redford, I think, was in it. James Caan was in it. Pretty much everyone who was a big deal at the time was in that movie. But Anthony Hopkins just absolutely nailed his performance there. Again, that kind of quiet authority that he has, just great. Loved it. Psychic Girl says, I've heard from so many people that they love Godzilla despite not being sure about the subtitles. Plus, my show had a lot of kids in it. I hope this shows to the world that there is a market for good foreign films in the US. Yeah, I think maybe Americans have more of an issue with subtitles than we do here. I mean, that's just a generalization, but I always get that impression that they're a bit wary of subtitled movies.
There is a weird cultural thing with having to read subtitles. Like, my mum, for example, fucking hates it. So just doing the process at all, it's like, really? Okay. I don't know about you, but like this sounds unbelievable to some people, but I'm serious. When there is a film with subtitles that I'm into, I sometimes forget I'm reading the subtitles. It's all like a part of the package.
Yeah, I think particularly once you get to a certain point in the movie, like you're so used to just reading them that you're not thinking about it consciously anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't think it ruins your appreciation for what you're seeing or the performance of the actors, because even if you're not understanding the words that they're saying necessarily, you can hear the emotion in their voice. You can see
like
their
super
expressions.
important part,
yeah, and I think that gives you a sense of where it's at. And I know dubbing is always or is quite often available for a lot of shows, particularly if it's on streaming services. But generally, I would try to avoid it because it just robs so much of the the original actor's performance from it. Larry Escher says, I just rewatched Godzilla in IMAX and I was the only one in a theater of 400, Houston, Texas. Hope more people get on the ball and support this. Yeah, fingers crossed they do. I mean, the movie for its budget is done incredibly well. I think it's the biggest Japanese movie in America, like the biggest live action movie that they've had. So I don't know. It could be one of those ones that actually grows week on week rather than declines.
Yeah, maybe
more people hear about it. Pierced by Light says, Drinker, your balls out action novels are the perfect escape from my usual dry academic readings. Thank you for that. Thank you. I do try to provide a bit of action and occasionally a bit of sex as well. So, all those things are fun. And if you can mix the two of them together, even better. Wes Dupree says, Hail chat, hail to the fellowship. Thanks for the recommendations last week, guys. I dragged 4 other people to see Oppenheimer 2, Iguana Boogaloo. Amazing. Excellent. Now, all these things help, I suppose. OMG Puppies says, fun Christmas fact, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, punched someone in the face at the Council of Nicaea. I hope that's true. If it is, I like him even more.
Yeah.
Frosty Zipper says, finally able to catch a live stream. 31 years closer to the grave. Need to lose weight. Hair is losing its shine, but Disney is taking loss after loss. And folk finally seem to be catching on. All considered, I'll chalk it up in the win column. Cheers, gents. Nice one, mate. Thank you very much for that. And stick with it. Hard Romeo says, please watch Shadows in the Sky, a frustrating / perplexing World War II horror movie that feels like 2 completely different scripts awkwardly duct taped together, doused in intersectional feminism, and then set on fire.
Oh.
Wow. Sounds like a blast. Can't wait to see that. Shadows in the Sky. Wait, is that... Hold on. Is that the one with the gremlin?
I'm not familiar.
It can't be that one. This guy. No, the only one I'm getting there is like from the 1950s. Shadow. Oh, we'll try this one. Oh yeah, this is I've seen this one. It's called Shadow in the Cloud, I think. That's what they're going for. Yeah, so it's Chloe Moretz. The girl from Hit Girl from
Grace Moretz, right?
Yeah, the Hit Girl from fucking Kick-Ass. So she's in a World War II bomber, like transporting cargo.
Oh, that movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I have no intention to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty shit. It starts off with a kind of intriguing premise, because the whole first half of the movie, she's just in like the turret, like the ball turret at the base of the plane, and she keeps seeing this gremlin thing crawling about on the wings of the plane, and no one believes her. But yeah, then it just gets progressively
Sounds like a Simpsons episode.
Yeah, well, I guess progressively more insane and crazy, and yeah, there's a bit where she like falls out of the plane and then blows up another plane and gets bounced back into it, and I don't even know how to describe it.
All right.
Yeah. Zach Ferretti says, thanks for all the content. I drive by myself for work, and podcasts and Jesus are the only things that keep me sane. What's your favorite Back to the Future movie? Mine is 2, even though 1 is probably better. That was a nice segue there. Yeah, favorite Back to the Future. I think probably my favorite is 1.
I think my favorite's 1. I'd have to rewatch them.
2, I like. 2 is almost like the most fragmented because it's like you're in the future and then you're back in 1955 again, and they obviously have to rework elements of 1 in order to make it work. And I think they managed to slot it in pretty effectively. But I don't know. I just prefer the streamlined simplicity of 1. Frosty Zipper says, also just going to throw it out there, but Joss Whedon was always overblown and overrated. The man doesn't write dialogue, he writes quips. Well, what do you say to that, Mauler?
Did you see Angel Season 5? I forget.
No, I did not.
Angel Season 5 is his best work of all time. The kind of good work that I would apply similarly to like Spielberg or Ridley Scott or whoever else, where no matter what they make these days that pisses me off, and that would have included Joss Whedon, but he doesn't make anything anymore. I'll always remember like what they did at their best, sort of thing. There's an episode that begins with Spike and Angel are arguing over something really petty, and it's really funny. Like they're back and forthing really angrily to the point of like ripping into each other personally. And you don't know what they're talking about yet. Like it's unclear. And Wesley walks in the room and he says, excuse me, like, is this something that we should all be talking about? And like Angel's like really annoyed and he's like, ugh. And then Spike says like, it was, they go, okay, so if spacemen and astronauts got into if cavemen and astronauts got into a fight, who would win? And that's what they've been arguing about the whole time. And it's so funny because Wesley's like possibly the most intelligent character in like the whole, 2 shows, and he looks at them like they're insane. He takes a step back and he goes, "Do the astronauts have weapons?" They both at the same time go, "No," like because they've obviously been discussing it for ages, and it's dumb as fuck. And it's funny, and there's wit in there, but that the level of intelligence between even those 3 characters is completely different, and you're kind of having fun. You might be laughing with it, and then you'll start thinking about it. An astronaut and a caveman. It's the astronaut, right? He would win because he's like way smarter. And then you're like, well, if it was in a cave and you just spawn them both, caveman's probably gonna fuck up the astronaut, isn't he? And then you're like, well, if the astronaut had a gun, he wouldn't.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, yeah, but the astronaut, I think the point is more so about their intelligence and advancements, intellectually, rather than the brawn, rather than like being able to utilize any particular technology. I don't think that's the reason they're choosing astronaut in that the spirit of that conversation. And later on, this is spreading around with different characters, and they're all like expressing a different interest on like which one would win and how this is dumb as fuck. But at the same time, surely it's the astronauts. And then whether or not it's fair that they have weapons, and one of the characters is like, well, don't the cavemen just have fire in their cave? So the astronauts should have something. Like they should come with something. It's not fair. Like just funny little quips like that. And while they're talking, one of the characters spits up blood and goes unconscious. It's not funny. It's a complete shift, like a tone thing. And you're like, well, what the fuck? And then the episode is about her slowly dying. She's got an old demon has infected her and it's slowly hollowing her out and it's going to kill her. And they're both like talking about how she's slowly losing her memory. She's because it's eating away at her brain and she's not going to make it. And then she casually just says, of course the cavemen wins. And it's the kind of writing, it's all over season 5, where you realize, oh shit, Joss Whedon's making a big point about how like survival and defeat are a lot of the time built on not what weapon you have or what technology or what advancement, whatever. It's like the will to survive, and that cavemen were like crafted by the environment of having to defeat every last challenge that comes up with them, and they're fucking monstrous. Meanwhile, an astronaut is much more contemplative and would take everything slowly and try to figure out the best possible path to create the ultimate best over time. And all that thinking is fucking useless against something that just wants to survive and will kill you. And the idea is that she's a scientist and she dies by the end of the episode, and the ancient demon is the one that wins. Joss Whedon's writing at his best is some of my like favorite in all of fiction. And he sneaks in a lot of stuff that you would never expect that hits you right in the heart without realizing it. The idea that all of his characters are just witty is, one, a great compliment to him, because it's hard to write witty characters if you're not witty. And secondly, I've spoken to Gary about this several times. Every time someone says it, I feel like they're copying someone else's point. Like, have you watched this stuff? What about the dumb characters? What about the characters that are like meat-headed? What are the characters that are aggressive and not particularly smart and figure things out? It's like one of the funniest combos in Buffy is Giles and Cordelia, because Giles is super smart and witty, and Cordelia's a fucking brick. Like, she's stupid as fuck. So they have a really good bounce, and it's just like the idea that they're all witty, just it doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, like with all the things that happen with the Justice cut and Alien Resurrection, and I guess Dollhouse to an extent. Like, a lot of people will think he's just like worthless as a writer. And I'm just like, seriously though, look at his best stuff, and I'll recommend to the day I die just Buffy and Angel, and then Angel season 5. It's some of the best stuff in fiction. And me and Gary will stream about it one day.
I mean, to rationalize like his career trajectory and say the quality of his writing, do you think it's a case of, as time passed, he almost became a parody of himself in terms of like how he wrote? You know, he began focusing more and more on the quips and the humor and the wittiness, rather than like layering that on top of serious drama? Or is it just like, did he burn through his stockpile of like really good creative ideas in that sort of period?
The worst stuff from my point of view from him is like explained by a lot of production disasters, right? Because like Avengers, I think most people agree the 2012 film is good, and he is happy with that film. He likes it, and it's something he considers his work. But Age of Ultron, most people agree, is pretty bad, and that's the film he said that made him quit the MCU, and that it got ruined by the studio, and that he barely considers it his film. It's like, that's interesting to think about, because that's where a lot of criticism can come from. And then, of course, you have Justice League, which I'm happy to give him responsibility for in terms of why it's terrible. But I also think Snyder Cut is terrible. So in any case, when you're trying to fix the Snyder Cut, it's going to be pretty hard. And I think he failed. And then it's like, so what else are we judging by? And it's like, well, I actually quite liked The Nevers. I don't think anybody watched that. That was the last piece of work he basically did. I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I've heard people like that. People also dislike it. I don't know. But if you ask me what his problem with writing may have become, it probably would have been that he wanted to like write, focusing less so on characters and more so on trying to get some form of a set of ideas forward that can fuck up the story, or that he's stretched too thin, or whatever have you. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. You'd have to ask me which project, and then I'd have to sort of think about what I think destroyed it. But I don't know. I've never, as someone who's seen almost all of his work, I've never thought like, oh, his problem is too many characters are witty. That's always come to me as someone who's not as familiar with his work saying that.
I wonder if perhaps to some extent the problem hasn't been him. It's more people trying to emulate him.
Oh, absolutely. That's been a big embarrassing problem. People say he ruined the MCU, and yet they'll also say like Avengers is one of the best movies in the MCU.
Yeah.
So it's like, so which is it?
Yeah, it's like, okay, so, you know, potentially it's like he didn't ruin it. It's just like everyone trying to be like him. Marvel trying to just make every movie like his work is what ruined it. Interesting thought. I mean, we perhaps won't get to know what he's now capable of, because he feels like he's just a persona non grata in Hollywood now. Like, he is just blacklisted.
Yeah, he's gone. I don't even know if there's a way for him to actually come back if he wanted to, and I don't even know that he wants to. I have no idea what's going on. That interview he gave after the cancellation was weird as hell.
Yeah.
And I would, let's put it this way as well. If he was like announcing Buffy season 7, both me and Gary would be like, please don't. Like it's and you'd be like, well, I thought you liked it. It's like, I don't even know what, I don't know who he is anymore. Like, I don't know what we'd be getting. To a similar extent, I wouldn't want James Cameron to make a Terminator 3, you know, like an actual Terminator 3, and I wouldn't want Ridley Scott to make, imagine like he made like a sequel to Alien, but it was a prequel about the origins of the alien, and then he made another one.
Imagine that. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nuts? And that's not something I would want, because I saw what happened. It wasn't fun.
I like, refresh my memory. Did you watch Napoleon, or have you not seen that yet?
I've been put off watching it by everybody's review of it. So
yeah, It's an interesting snapshot of where Ridley Scott is as a director now at this point. It's not good. So I don't have a huge amount of hope for Gladiator 2. Not that I did anyway. Kevin O'Neill says, I love how they address the concept of kamikaze pilots in Godzilla -1. They successfully tread the line of emphasizing how big of a deal they were in Japan at the time without glorifying the practice. Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it works perfectly well with the main character being a kamikaze who decides, like, nah, I don't really want to blow myself up. But yeah, it was a tremendous dishonor if you failed in your mission, if you were entrusted with this task and you didn't see it through. So yeah, quite an interesting way of approaching a character who's fallen from grace, I suppose. So yeah, I liked it. Larry Escher says, I see Godzilla as a metaphor for Koichi's guilt. The monster first appeared after he avoided being a kamikaze, and Godzilla got even bigger and more destructive until Koichi faced him literally head on. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way of reading into the story. The whole nuclear atomic bomb aspect of it is played down quite a bit in this one because it's less relevant to Japan at this point. But yeah, I think that's a good way of seeing it. Fight the Club says, nice seeing Dark Hour back on the peanut gallery. If you want to see first-time director Yamazaki did Godzilla, look up Always Sunset 2 Godzilla and have a laugh. Okay. I'll have a look. Rated M says, off topic, everyone, but could we invite the Soska sisters to the open bar? Would love to have them join the conversation from time to time. Who on earth are the Soska sisters?
Well, we had them on Real BBC. They're some fun guests. Maybe there can be a Real BBC open bar crossover someday or something. I don't know.
What are they? What do they normally cover?
Oh, they're like creatives, as far as I know, in terms of they write and they've directed a film before as well, or at least short films. I think I don't know as much about them as does, but very entertaining girls who know a lot about the industry and have plenty of interesting commentary for it.
Okay, maybe we could bring them on then. Green Dino Ranger says, do you guys think we'll ever see a return of female characters that aren't completely smug, stereotypical, megalomaniacal, unpleasant girl bosses? Yeah, I think
we still get one or two here and there. They still, like, Arcade is filled with female characters that I really enjoy, so we still get them.
We've Blue Eye Samurai, which I've started watching finally because about 5,000 people recommended it to me. That's got a main character who is a great example of a female lead who isn't a girl boss. She absolutely takes hits throughout the story, and she does not get everything right, and she's very likable for it. So, it's still happening, and I think to some extent we're seeing the death throes of the whole girl boss archetype, or at least as she's been represented over the past several years.
Did you see the comment from Numi Rapace?
No. So
first of all, I assume you know who she is, right? She was in
yes, she's Lisbeth Salander in the whatever they're called,
Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo series.
So she had a comment about, she doesn't want to play like likable, strong women. She would rather play roles written for men because they're usually much more interesting.
No, that's an interesting way of looking at it, isn't it?
You wonder if that's intertwined with everything that's happening. It's like, the fear of writing a woman to be flawed is making them boring to play for actors.
Yeah. Well, Emily Blunt hit the nail on the head perfectly with her comments about it, and I think she's exactly right. I respect the hell out of her for just having the guts to speak up about this and be like, yeah, this is bullshit. It's the most boring thing to try and play as an actress because you've just got nothing to work with.
I think you might have with a bit of an existential crisis as an actress if you think of if I don't say anything or even push it, then I could miss out on the best years of my life to play characters. You know what I mean? This is my prime, and there's nothing on offer because of how stupid everybody is right now.
I mean, Christ, yeah. How many Marvel movies can you get into?
Yeah. Well, she was thought of for Black Widow at one point, right?
Numi Rapace?
No, Emily Blunt.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think
I was going to say Numi would have been an interesting choice, actually. Probably would have been, kind of a cool thing. But Yeah, I suppose as well as an actress, you have to structure your career pretty carefully because you don't have many prime years where you're going to get those really juicy roles. You know,
Yeah, you got to make sure because Edge of Tomorrow was great for Emily Blunt, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't
follow up with many big action flicks, which is interesting.
It's crazy because she was great in Sicario, but it's it's part of the point of the film. She's really not important to the film. The
no, she's not
about her really at all. Even though she's arguably the main character.
Yeah, I just love the point where she decks what's his name?
John Bernthal?
No, the other actor, the guy who played Thanos.
Oh, Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, yeah. And it doesn't even rock him. He just takes the hit and then just knocks her on her arse. It's that's exactly how it would really play out. But it's so few movies have the guts to actually show something like that. It's you would never see shit like that in a Disney movie. It's funny. But yeah, you could probably argue Scarlett Johansson is probably approaching that point where she's not going to get those big lead-in lady roles anymore because she's almost 40 herself. So it's unfortunate, but that's the trajectory that a lot of these actresses go on.
Yeah.
Sonny Close says, worst plot mechanics of all time. I can't get over in Mortal Kombat when Cage wants to fight Goro and Shang Tsung agrees as long as he can pick anyone he wants and fight them to determine the outcome of the whole tournament after, and Cage agrees. I mean, if you're asking for bad plot mechanics, there's probably a lot you could pick from. Yeah, I think it's more annoying when movies create plot mechanics and then just totally ignore them or overwrite them because it's more convenient.
Yeah, there's plenty that you could go with. I mean, the introduction of incursions in MOM, so it just permanently destroys everything you could possibly understand about all of it, right? Like telling us that if you enter a universe that you're not from, for as long as you're there, you increase the chances of it being destroyed. And then they tell us that America is in our universe where she shouldn't be, and that's where she'll stay.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, well,
hyperspace trackers in Star Wars, hyperspace ramming. And this just 427 Rbox says, Drinker and anyone else on the panel who writes, do you build stories from the ending backwards or from the beginning onwards? And any advice for growing a concept for either into a proper story? So I can tell you, I almost start from how's the best way to describe this? It's I start from the core and build outwards rather than going from start to finish or from finish to start. I start with a very simple outline of the story that I have, the skeleton of a story. And then I gradually flesh that out and add more details and story beats. How do the characters fit into it? Where do people go? What's their character arc over the course of the story? What little things do they get involved in? And that fleshes out that story to end up with hopefully a full and well-developed story outline. So that's how I tend to do it. Paz Two Wheels says, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And if yes, is it the best? I would say yes and yes.
I mean, it's pretty hard to beat.
It's just so fucking fun. It's endlessly rewatchable. TKG Moff Hallas says, in honor of Pearl Harbor, it's time to watch Tora, 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 the best World War II movie set in the Pacific Theater to remember all the men and women that died that day. Tora, Tora, Tora is a good movie. It's a proper old, I think it was the early 1960s World War II movie it was made. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Mauler, but it pretty accurately covers the attack on Pearl Harbor.
No, I haven't seen it.
And it doesn't have Ben Affleck in it. That makes it there. Peter Garombi says, I saw Godzilla yesterday and I was blown away by it. I love the cast, especially the Minesweeper crew. The "we have treated life too cheaply" speech before the final battle is my favorite piece of writing this year. That's a pretty good speech, yeah. Again, reflecting the kamikaze aspect of World War II. Yeah, it's good stuff. DRT is King says the Ginza attack had a fair amount of callbacks to the 1954 with the train car that Naniko was in, the tanks that lined up to attack Godzilla, and the news crew on top of the building. Perfect. Yep. Paying homage and all that. Sam Wallace Art says -0 is unironically a great film that happens to be about a giant sea monster. Having grown up in Japan, the veteran's sacrifice for redemption and a better future genuinely got me crying. Very good stuff, man. Thank you. Thomas Arens says, when you find out she's alive in the end, do you feel like that was a proper use of subverting expectations? I'm a grown-ass man and I teared up a little bit. So I don't want to spoil the movie or anything, so I'll keep it vague. Not what I expected. No, didn't see that one coming, but then I could say that about the ejector seat. But yeah, you can sometimes go for, I guess, a more uplifting ending. I guess that's the way I put it. And with everything that you've seen up until that point, you might have expected everyone to just make these big sacrifices and then that's it. It's over for them. So sometimes it's nice to get that release of, nope, this person did make it out. And yeah, that last scene with them together kind of hints that something else is going on. Don't want to spoil it too much, but yeah, it was interesting to see where they might go with it. Caleb Ciacelli says, the community meeting on fighting Godzilla was inspiring. No one stopped the conversation to say their preferred pronouns. Only the concern of making their families orphans and widows. How relatable. Yeah. Big difference between that and Doctor Who. That's for sure. Sam Wallace Art says, Godzilla -1. I meant big thumbs up for me. Exactly, yeah. Giovanni Garcia says, you guys should read some of the Kamikaze Pilot's Journal entries. They're very sad, and you're right. A lot of them did not want to do it because they were Christian and otherwise. Yep. I assumed they were volunteers for kamikazing. Like, you weren't just picked because, you know, you don't want to pick the wrong guy who's not going to do it. But I don't know how many were pressured into doing it just through expectations or what. What's this? Slime Sensei says, love the book, Drinker. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it. Mizit Wizard says, as a lifelong Godzilla fan, loving that Godzilla -1 is turning out to be many of my favorite YouTubers' most enjoyed film of the year. Also, Ravens. Okay. I don't know about the Ravens thing, but yeah, what can I say? We just sometimes it's fun to just enjoy a good movie that's unpretentious and just there to entertain you. You know, they do come along once in a while. Marcus 1990 says, thoughts on the movie Brightburn? I mean, it was a bit of a subversion, I guess, of the superhero genre. It's been done quite a few times by this point, but yeah, it wasn't terrible. It was that whole, like, it's like that speech from Batman in Batman versus Superman, where it's like, if there's even a 1% chance that he could turn against us, then we have to treat it as a certainty. And it's like, well, Brightburn is that 1%. That's what happens.
I think the most of the praise for that film is riding on its premise. I didn't think it was that good.
Yeah,
like, it's just like, wasn't that a crazy idea? And it's like, okay, yes, but what do you think they did well? It's like,
they made him genuinely kind of terrifying, knowing that he has this power, and like, especially at the end, it's like, okay, you know, he can just fucking annihilate you, and it's basically a child. So yeah, an interesting concept, I guess. Sir Hones says, 75 years strong. Can we get some love for Hell on Wheels? It's a very underrated Western. Gary, did Quarter Black Garrett tell you how big of a twant Crowder is? I don't know what that is, but yeah, Hell on Wheels. There you go. You can get some love there. Ilias Isophides says, Lord of the Rings is a Christmas movie. Changed my mind, or review it. Is it a Christmas movie? How can we sell that one?
I guess because it released around Christmas.
I feel like it needs to be a bit stronger than that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can make that one work in my mind. Pathkeeper says, Drinker, I appreciate the slowdown in the beginning of Act 3. To me, it allowed my mind to process the tension build up before heading into the climax ending. Without those slow moments, movies just get exhausting to watch. I very much agree. Yeah, you definitely need to vary up the pace, and you need a break from action and destruction. Otherwise, it does just get tedious and exhausting. I just think maybe the slowdown happened for a little bit too long. That would be my only criticism. Scottish Celts gave me some cake, so thank you. I love cake. Giovanni Garcia says, also, the part about him having to cancel and land because of mechanical errors was based on true stories of kamikaze pilots because they had such rigidy planes that they were very prone to mechanical errors. I think you meant to say rickety. Yeah, I would imagine if you were going to send kamikazes out who aren't going to be coming back, you would just give them the shit planes that have run their course, you know. No point wasting the good ones. Jason Webster says, as someone who has studied computer animation and has been a film reviewer, Godzilla Minus One is my favorite film of 2023 and one of the year's best. The story was compelling with good acting, good score, and CGI. Can't argue. Wild Hunter says, stop the Godzilla spoilers, please. We couldn't help it, okay?
I don't blame you guys at all because it's how long can you wait before you can fucking talk about a movie? It's the people's fault for not releasing this movie to everybody instead to selectly random people. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm just saying
it's because Studio Toho distributed it themselves.
Those bastards.
Well, they didn't have a US distributor, and when you don't have that, it's pretty hard to get like a big simultaneous worldwide release, you know, because you're just trying to have to, you know, organize it piecemeal.
Okay, but hey. Still, I'm like Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith. I hate them.
I hate you. Kevin O'Neill, the anti-hero thing is why I'm so bitter about the 2014 movie. It was excellently advertised as a horror movie, and it ended up being just another Godzilla shows up and saves the day movie. Yeah, I agree. I want to have Godzilla as like a terrifying threat. I don't want to have him be this guy who just shows up to protect the humans, more or less. That's kind of what you get with later ones. Simon Ho says, Disney's version, Transzilla versus Toxic White Male. That's a battle for the ages there. Fixed Bayonets says, the old ones, they shot Roman candles at a dude in a suit is why he didn't take damage. Seen it and loved it. All right, that's the proper old school Godzilla. Lord Botha says, have you guys heard some of the wild stuff coming out of the testimonies in the Jonathan Majors trial? No, I haven't been following it, actually. Is it good or bad for him?
Do not know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been well publicized in the States, but I've not heard anything over here. Easy says, what's this? The US-Japan interim government after World War II had a major media blackout about the bombs and the fallout. It wasn't until 1954 Godzilla, which they made as a workaround to discuss it. That is interesting. Kiki Amart says, Drinker and Co, will you review The Holdovers?
What is that?
I don't know. Hold on. The name's familiar. The Holdovers. That is... it's got Paul Giamatti in it. Okay. So, according to IMDb, a cranky history teacher at a remote prep school is forced to remain on campus over the holidays with a troubled student who has no place to go. Probably not. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't sound amazing. Derek says, whenever someone cuts in front of me in traffic, I just assume they're the kind of person who likes The Last Jedi. I think that's fair. Very possibly true. Timmy04 says, in terms of bad media, which was worse, 2022 or 2023?
Ooh.
2022 gave us Rings of Power.
2023 did have a couple of really stinky games in it as well. Not that gaming hasn't also had some really great stuff. It's just that, you know, like Gollum, Kong, and what was it? Forspoken, Starfield. There was like loads of them. There's like 10, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? This is just like it's worth considering.
I think 2023 is different because it's almost like the year when everyone just gave up, when they just collectively said, I don't care anymore. It's like, it might be garbage. It might be, there might be something worthwhile there. I just don't care anymore. Like, it was the year of franchise death, I suppose. And it's the year when pretty much everything we predicted would fail did. I think the only I guess notable exception would be something like Barbie.
Where even that, though, I'm pretty sure a lot of us never said it was going to flop.
Well, yeah, I think our overriding perception going into it was, I have no idea what to make of this film.
I think I said every single time it came up, this could make all of the money or none of the money. I have no clue. Don't even know where to begin thinking about that.
But it was uncharted territory because nothing like that had really been done before. Whereas with pretty much everything else, it's like, well, okay, this Marvel movie, that Marvel movie, this Indiana Jones movie, like, kind of tell they're all going to fail, and they did, So there wasn't even surprise there. It was just, yep, everything's coming true. It's all going down the tubes. Jiggle Socks says producers are ghostwriters and they are terrible. I can get behind that, yeah, for the most part.
Again, not to simp for them in any way, shape, or form, because I hate them. But whenever they do anything good, we're never going to hear about it.
Yeah, probably. Tank Muso says, as a Japanese man, I'm very proud of our movie. I'm glad people overseas enjoy it. We compensate the low budget with passion and soul. What a crazy concept, eh? Not having all the money, but just being able to put a lot of passion and a lot of, a lot of enjoyment into your movies. Who could have predicted that people would warm to that? Pick of the day says, Nerdrotic, on screen, your arm looks like the last episode of Doctor Who. Okay.
Oh, no.
That sounds bad. TSG Official says, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is getting a remake and it looks so bad. No charisma, no chemistry, and it just felt dry as fuck. You're gonna struggle to top Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, like, in their prime, who literally started banging because of that movie.
That's funny.
Chemistry doesn't get much better than that, yeah. Sam Wallace Art says, manhood in Japan never really got over the big defeat, still struggle to know what their place in society is. Godzilla -1 is a positive message that Japan needs right now. That's fair. Fair play. Jiggle Socks. What will this superhero death mean for all the games in production? Iron Man at EA, Motive that will come out next year. It has Ironheart in it, by the way. Of course it does. Yeah, the games, I don't know. I guess.
Hard to say. I mean, it depends on whether or not they're good. Because they're going to make sink or swim some games. But yeah, I don't know. Superheroes, the tide is down, is the way that's the fatigue comment. That seems to be, like, whenever it's brought up, it seems to annoy people because they all want to say, like, no, it's a bad thing to take. It's like, it can be all of them at the same time. Like, if people are tired of bad shit, but they're also tired of superheroes separately, and then both of those together kill superheroes hardcore.
I mean, I definitely think you can have too much of a good thing, but I think also when it comes to superhero fatigue, like, one hastens the other. Bad movies are just going to bring on that fatigue even quicker because it's like, it just feels like there's nothing left to explore with it. MJO Skyver says, Hail Drinker and Chaps, just watched Godzilla -1 on IMAX for the third time. Majestic. Glad that it got the Drinker Recommends. My favorite film of 2023. Nice. Intelligent Crayon Eater. Paramount Plus has 4+ seasons of Star Trek Discovery, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, and Halo Season 2. The only explanation is that it's a money laundering scheme like Disney Plus. Changed my mind. I can't change your mind because I can't think of any other justification for the insane amounts of money they spend to make these shit programs that no one watches. Isaac Gorski says, info just came out that Disney has been manipulating the Florida government for decades with gifts and spending to police and government officials. I am shooketh. Mauler, are you shocked by that?
All of the shock.
Major corporations using bribes and kickbacks to get what they want from local government officials. Who would have thought? Pathkeeper says, yeah. Drinker & Co. Speaking of smaller studios, have you seen the trailer for The Shift, the new sci-fi movie by Angel Studios? Not yet, no. But I'll be interested to see what they put out, actually. Yeah. I'll give that a look. Road Ghost says, Drinker, here's a little something to help you ditch that vile toilet duck. Never! Why not upgrade to Harpic? It's a top shelf choice and pairs nicely with urinal cakes. Well, now you're talking. Larry Bernard. I watched The Shift by Angel Studios. It's an attempt to make a goofy sci-fi version of the Book of Job. It was very interesting, but I think it clearly needed a second draft. Also, the trailer said that it's a 2024 joint. Okay. Joint venture, I assume you mean? Yeah. A sci-fi version of the Book of Job. That's a hell of a combination. also says, hey, Drinker, you magnificent gentleman scholar. Are you going to read or review, talk about the reign of the MCU? Gary's read it. I don't know if I can be arsed reading that.
I think he's already summarized in like a... I think, did he do a video about it now? I feel like I can't remember if he did or not. I thought he was going to...
He's definitely used the material in it as a basis for videos. I don't know if he's reviewed the book directly, though. Because I feel like what you're going to get from that is mostly a sanitized version of history from Marvel's point of view.
And then some funny highlights.
Yeah. So, yeah. Jackson Kago gave me $10, so thank you. D-Risk, give us a thumbs up. Thanks, man. Austin Ure says, hello, I have a Christmas film recommendation, Tokyo Godfathers, a reimagining of John Ford's classic Three Godfathers. It's my second favorite Christmas movie, only behind It's a Wonderful Life. Thanks for the recommendation, mates. Seminole says, to the panel, I've always been frustrated at how DC handled the DCEU when the blueprint was right there with the DCAU, the animated universe. It earned its love, but the DCEU hasn't. Questions, thoughts on new Planet of the Apes movie? Okay, so with the DCEU thing, they were just trying to copy Marvel. They tried to fast track a shared universe, and they just didn't have the time or the right people in place to make it work. It's kind of a fascinating example of how to waste hundreds of millions of dollars, really. New Planet of the Apes movie, not entirely keen on the concept. Like, I feel like they rounded out their story pretty effectively with the three films. That probably would have been enough. I don't know how you feel, Noah.
I'd have to rewatch them. It's been a while. Fringy's very fond of those movies, I think. But yeah, I don't know. The thing is, I'm not hugely into the classic Planet of the Apes.
Oh, sacrilege.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Like, I've seen them, and I'm like, yeah, these are neat. Obviously, the best is Tim Burton's.
Well, of course,
kind of perfected it.
That bit with the Abraham Lincoln statue.
Oh god, perfect.
Like, jaw on the floor right there.
Yeah.
I honestly can't think of a concept that's less suited to Tim Burton, especially the way it was filmed. It's like just bizarre. The one thing that came out of that movie which was good was Estella Warren, the lead actress. Damn, she was hot. She couldn't act for shit, but she looked great.
Tim Burton got so popular, he was just given like projects sometimes would be like, he's just not at all the person that should be making this. Have you not seen how distinct his style is? Not that stuff.
Yeah.
And, but that's what happens when you sort of hot shit in Hollywood, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you know the story of like him trying to do a Superman movie with Nick Cage.
Yeah.
He came into that project and fucking torpedoed it. Star Trekker says, hey guys, I saw a movie with 3 female leads, 9 to 5. It was great. I did go to Guardians 3 and Godzilla tomorrow and Die Hard, a Christmas movie on Sunday. Any movie that you guys recommend is good enough for me too. Thank you very much. And yeah, appreciate it. Jay Fraser says, hail gents, the best Christmas gift you ever got. This one, like, yeah, okay, what was the best Christmas present we ever got? I'll tell you now. There was a toy series in the UK called Manta Force, and it was like you got these big plastic spaceships, right? And each of them had like smaller spaceships within it, and they all fitted into like different sections of it. And it was a bit like, I don't know, G.I. Joe or something like that, but like it was more complicated. And I got that one Christmas, and it was the best ever. I spent like months playing with that shit. It was great.
There was a Christmas where I got a big old new set of Hot Wheels that combined with all my old ones, and I made like an enormous track in the biggest room in our house. And I was I was happy then.
It's like, I remember being happy once.
Yes.
Chaos Merchant. Stand by for the by regeneration of the next episode. Tennant will regenerate into Tennant and Gatwa. That was oddly prescient, yeah, because apparently that's exactly what happened, isn't it? Can you break that down for me a little bit? So, like, now there's two doctors.
You've seen the clip, I assume. It's by generation. I don't even know what that means.
No.
He generated, and there's two doctors now. And, man, I'll be talking about it on Real BBC, but it's so sad. The storytelling values have just completely changed from these eras. Like, you have the ending of Ten's run being this, like, the only way I can save my best friend is to never speak to her ever again. She can't even know that I exist. That's like the nature of the situation they're in, and she helps him save the world. And there's that really melancholy moment of the fact that she can almost keep up with him, but the brain she has is just too much for a human being, and it's killing her. And like, there's all those emotions, and then you see the actors talking about it and how like it's a bittersweet ending. It's representative of sacrifices that have to be made, repercussions, all this other stuff. The ending for this one is Donna has her whole family and the doctor, and they're happily living together. She's got a really high-paying job now, and everyone's just chill, and all the horrors of the world are over, and she's got her full memory back, and she's happy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. Could you imagine if fucking Lord of the Rings ended, and like they go, luckily we found the Flurgan Stone, and we can resurrect Boromir and everyone who died.
Yep.
You'd be like, what? And they'd be like, oh, and don't worry, all the things that burned, we can undo that with the Flurgan Stone too, and it'll. What are you doing? Like, it sucks. And
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like this little 3-episode run that Russell's done so far, it seems to be very highly geared towards sexuality and gender politics, and like, you know, the trans character of Rose. And it's like, is this just the perfect example of the message that Russell wants to get across, just completely overriding the story that you should be telling?
It's so wacky because like I thought that he would be able to write in whatever he was like thinking about as subtext in his stories, not some of the most overt text I've ever seen, to the point of, like I said, it's canon that women are better than men. It's like, why? How bad have you become in terms of writing stories?
Yeah. I mean, I can't understand what people will get out of this now. Is this just like a kind of middle-class struggle session that you go through when you watch a Doctor Who episode now? It's like, I want to watch this and feel shit about myself. Like,
yeah, it's pretty miserable.
Please tell me why I'm so horrible. Like
3 specials, and it was in the 3rd one that they briefly talked about why David Tennant's Doctor even came back, and it was something to do with him being exhausted or tired or something. I don't even know. I was just so done at that point anyway.
I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what the ratings are going to be like for Gatwa's run.
Yeah.
Because Tennant was supposed to be the silver bullet. He was the guy who would, like, you would tune in to see him because, holy shit, the 10th Doctor's back, you know, the most popular one ever. And, like, they're not even breaking, like, 5 million viewers when he's supposed to be the guy that's going to, like, resurrect Doctor Who. And now we've got this new guy who no one knows the actor, really. He's not been in anything big. And, yeah, there's just no selling point to it now. Like, where's it going to go? I don't know, unless the writing takes a massive, upward swing in terms of quality. I can't see it going anywhere. Simon Ho says, "Wish is Bob Iger's self-insert. Nobody gets their wish." Certainly he doesn't if he's wishing for better stock price for Disney. Adurian J says, "It's all bullshit, all of it. Dutch from Predator." That's true. Jester of Roanoke says, apparently 10 was going to say, Rose Tyler, I'm gay. Apparently so, yeah. Road Ghost says, panel, why do classic characters like Stargate SG-1's Jack O'Neill, goofy, borderline moronic, yet respected by his team and the Asgard, work well, while modern moronic male characters don't seem as effective. Well, I do have an issue with O'Neill, actually, and I think some of this is down to Richard Dean Anderson's portrayal of him, because I think he pushed for this. If you watch him in the first season or two of SG-1, he's actually a lot more intelligent than he is in later seasons. It's like they ham up the kind of goofiness. Like I guess every show has this. You know how you've got characters who are spouting loads of technobabble, and then the dumb guy will come in to like simplify it for the audience and be like, oh, so it's like setting a tank of gas on fire or something like that. You know, just really basic description. That's what O'Neill is like. But he's way more competent in the early seasons. But at the very least, even later on, he's shown to always be great at the whole like soldier aspect of things. Like he might not understand the science that they're dealing with, but he's always able to handle himself in a fight. And the script doesn't go out of its way to humiliate him. Whereas I think that's kind of what you get with a lot of male characters in modern things. They're there to be mocked, I guess, and made to look less than everyone else. Luke Newcomb movie reviews says, saw Godzilla -1, the quintessential Godzilla film, proving that America should give up the film rights to the Japanese, for they can't make something as good as -1. Also, Dark Hour, huge Ravens fan. There we go. But yeah, I guess the Americans don't seem great at making Godzilla movies. They've tried it a whole bunch of times, and it seems to have pretty much failed every time. So yeah, just let the Japanese do it. It's their baby. Robert Moran, pardon me, gentlemen, but Drinker, I need you to properly place Mauler back in his rightful place. Anyway, as you were.
What?
Why? Regarding what?
Regarding what?
I mean, I'm happy to try and do it, but like, what did he do that was so bad? Andrew N says, Muller, going my way through all of EFAP, will you ever do the Joker Last of Us 2 videos you talked about?
I would like to. Whether or not, even when a video is like a month away from being created, I'm just not going to talk about it because it's actually been nightmarish. Maybe in a decade's time, I'll tell you guys about all the specifics of how everything goes wrong. Because what we try and do, myself, Rags, bringing in everyone else behind EFAP stuff, is just not tell you guys anything until things are done, so that you can have some semblance of normalcy. Like, oh, look, a project, that's cool, I'll watch that. Oh, look, another one. Instead of, oh, the promise of 17 and maybe 3.5 come out, because of how nightmarish it is to get everything in order. Drinker knows what I'm talking about to some extent as well.
I do indeed, yeah.
It's just a matter of, this applies to all kinds of videos. There's a reason why I don't want to say, but there's so many things I want to make. And so I think the main thing to be worried about, I'm not saying I'm your favorite content creator, but about your favorite content creators, is that they haven't lost their drive. And believe me, mine is fiery. I'm working nonstop almost every day still. I'm fine. You'll get stuff. It's going to be fun.
It's just people like me keep pulling you into live streams and stuff. It's never
they keep
ends.
pulling me back in.
Yeah. Just when I thought I was out. John Thomas, a man who gave up unbridled power twice, George Washington. That's true. I suppose he did, yeah. Road Ghost says, Gary, what's your take on Doctor Who revealing too much, like the Shadow Proclamation build-up? Intriguing and menacing versus the underwhelming reveal of an old lady and 2 rhinos. Better left unseen. I mean, it sounds like it, yeah. I kind of remember those rhino things, actually. I saw clips of them, and they looked pretty retarded. I'm not going to lie. Canon Folderall, this is a 3-parter. The year is 20XX. Pop culture is on the verge of collapse. The entertainment world is littered by the desiccated husks of once mighty franchises, pumped dry by ravenous corporates. Parasitic Twitter flies buzz everywhere, spewing noxious clouds known as the message. Upon this bleak and bankrupt landscape stumbles an inebriated colossus, one of profound criticism and even more profound thirst. Not the hero we deserve, nor even the one we can afford, rising from his lair of crushed cans, lifting a half-empty bottle to the sky. Oh my god, I'm so in with this. Green Giggler says, "Hi, Drinker and panel. I'm a big fan of Vox's productions, and I think it'd be great to invite Professor Tosspot to the bar. In my opinion, he has one of the best and most underrated channels on YouTube." Yeah, actually, it's been ages since I've spoken to him. I had him on for a happy hour once. It'd be good to have him on Open Bar.
Yeah.
I'll extend the invite. Jackson Cagle says, "So true." I don't know what you're meaning, but whatever we said at the time, very true. Oh yeah, this is part 4 of the thing from Cannon Fodderall. It's way up the list. The battle cry roars forth. Nah, it'll be fine. Congratulations on 75 years of streaming excellence. Cheers. Thanks, man. Simon Ho. Doctor Who destroying fan favorite Tennant is revenge for female Doctor's failure. Wilfred Mott is in a wheelchair because he's evil. Davros is despicable me. That was what a fucking cop out as well, that moment where Tennant was reminiscing about Wilfred and it's like how much he misses him, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, he's alive, he's just in a nursing home."
We get to see him for 5 seconds in the second episode at the end.
I mean, he was, the actor was obviously not well.
It's really unfortunate, yeah.
But obviously they did their best with him. But yeah, just why have that joke in there? You didn't need to do that. Dragon Paul Z says, "When is Mauler going to take Drinker through Buffy and Angel? Just watch Not Fade Away a few days ago. Don't think it's possible for a show to capitalize on its thematic premise better than that episode does."
Yeah, I'd incline to agree with you. You've seen what of Buffy?
Probably the first 3 or 4 seasons, and then the final season, just because I wanted to see it end. Not because I hated it, I just wanted to see where it was all going.
And Angel, you've seen none of, or?
Yeah, if anything, it'll be like the occasional episode I just happened to catch on TV. But
it's funny because I think both me and Gary would say I think you'd like Angel more than Buffy. But yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an ask. It's not like I see a movie and go, "Drink, you should check this out," and then maybe in a few weeks he might. It's more of a, "Hey, you want to sacrifice a whole year of trying to get through 12 seasons of a TV show?" It's like,
it's a commitment, that's for sure. I mean, Christ, you saw how long it took me to get through the Fall of the House of Usher. It was like Halloween when that started, and it's like I only just finished it like a week or 2 ago.
Maybe though, maybe I'll maybe we should do a thing where we watch 1 episode of Buffy, 1 episode of Star Trek or something. Once per week.
You see, you're trying to tempt me in with that, aren't you? We'll see what we can do. The Almost Dead Man says, "What the fuck? My stream froze as soon as he pulled up that stone. Tell Nerdrotted to keep that thing locked up." That was the Panda Stone. It's powerful, you see. Don't underestimate its power. Jay Fraser, "Drinker, I recommend Hollywood Scholar and Salty Traveling Sea as possible open bar guests. Their Doctor Who videos calling out the message are great." All right, thank you. Psycho Star says, "Does Doctor Who mean that Galadriel was not a real woman as she could not turn down the power of the ring?" Ooh, that's a question. Intelligent Crayon Eater, "Have you seen The Enemy Below with Robert Mitchum? If so, thoughts? Does it get a Drinker Mauler recommends?" I have seen it, and it's a really good war movie.
I'm not sure I've seen that one, I'm afraid.
So it's like a U-boat versus an American, minesweeper kind of thing. The Americans are dropping depth charges on it. The Germans are trying to duck and weave so they can get a shot at them. And it's good because it's told from both perspectives. It's like Kurt Jurgens is the U-boat captain and Robert Mitchum is the American captain. And they're trying to outsmart each other. They're trying little strategies and stuff. And it's good stuff. Good war movie. I like it. Jordan Pendragon says, "Well, it finally happened. The DVD rack at my local supermarket went in the dump today. The last fleeting remnants of physical media biting the dust." That is really sad, actually. Thinking of physical media just dying a death like that.
Yeah.
Thomas Bergman says, "Specials haven't killed Doctor Who. Chibnall and Whittaker did. Timeless Children buried them. Then Russell T. Davies has exhumed the grave so that he can rudely violate his desiccated corpse." Sigh. I mean, I think Doctor Who was dying already in the Peter Capaldi era. From what I've seen, it's like the writing quality was going way down.
Yeah.
Chibnall just kind of killed it, and then Russell T. Davies is just, having his way with the corpse. Pretty tragic. Old Grumbler says, I'll never know why they took 3 storylines from classic Godzilla, write their own, and cram them into a single movie, King of the Monsters. It's because everything's got to be done as quickly as possible, you see. Forking Around says, is there a way to make a good movie where Godzilla fights monsters, or do they have to all be force of nature? Sounds boring with such a cool monster. Well, the moment they start fighting, you immediately say, well, who's on our side? Who should we root for?
What's boring about Godzilla being a force of nature?
Well, exactly, yeah. I think the problem is, like, okay, if you introduce another monster, because, like, this is sequelitis in effect here, isn't it? Like, you can't just have every movie be like, well, Godzilla's back and we have to find another way to fight him off. Like, clearly you're going to have to add something else to the mix. And that thing was other monsters that Godzilla ends up fighting. But then the question comes in, well, okay, are they just neutral parties fighting each other, but also trying to destroy the humans? Or, you know, is Godzilla trying to protect us somehow? Like, who do you root for and all that? And how do you even work humans into the equation? It's something I don't think they ever managed to get right, if as far as I understand it. Basil, and I assume this was us talking about movies that should have got sequels. Goonies 2. There you go. There's a suggestion. Matt Murphy says, there's something about Mary.
It's a funny movie.
It is. Don't know if you could sequel it, but yeah. Basil also says Tropic Thunder 2. That, I think, could work.
Oh, God, it could be awesome or terrible, you know? It's a tough one.
Yeah. Regarding Doctor Who, this is from Scotty NC, says, I felt more emotion with the Night of the Doctor minisode before the 50th than I have with either of the specials. It's dead, R.I.P. Doctor Who. Yeah, I agree. Doctor says, favourite movie you saw in theatres multiple times? I saw Mystery Men 15 plus times when I was 13 back in the day. That is a lot of times to see one movie in the theatre. I think I saw Jurassic Park 3 times. That was a real rarity for me. I normally don't go back to the cinema more than once, but that was just a summer where
truly blown by that film.
Well, the thing is, it was because this is unknown nowadays, but like that movie played all summer. Like it was in the cinema for like 3 months or something, and so it was quite easy to go back and see it again.
And it was really good.
It helped that it was a good movie, yeah. Rick Roller says, would really like to someday hear your thoughts on Pool Hall Junkies. Lots of humor that would never be allowed in current year. Quality cast and writing. All right. I have to see it first, I guess. Rosie McRose says, are you going to review the new Miyazaki film? Which one is that?
Oh, you're talking about The Boy and the Heron, I think.
Oh, yeah. We mentioned that the other day. So is this part of Studio Ghibli?
As far as I'm aware.
Yeah, because he did Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, Howl's Moving Castle, that sort of thing. So yeah, let's see, The Boy and the Heron. Ooh, yeah, I might have to give that a watch then. Yeah, watch this space. We'll see what I think. Trevor G says, "Did any of you watch Nefarious?"
No, I don't
2023.
think
so. No, me neither. Reactor Core says, if Godzilla -1 was made by Disney, the naval commander would have been a lesbian person of color. The conference room full of men must have been very triggering. Yeah. It's funny because even though it's set in Japan in like the 1940s, yeah, that would never be allowed if this was made in the West. It's so funny. Wild Hunter says, have any of the panel read Marvel 1602? Thoughts? No, never even heard of it. Sorry, man. Nino Marochi says, Drinker, your channel's one of my favorites on YouTube. Thank you very much. Sonny Close says, who is Echo Chamberlain strangling with his left arm? Ah, that's the magic of the background on Open Bar. You never quite know how the avatars are going to line up. Basil says, Sisu 2. Sisu's son is in Israel fighting against Hamas after Hamas kills a Palestinian family for standing up to them and saying no to their authority. Well, Not sure about the premise, but like Sisu 2, I think would definitely work. Ty says, I liked Peter Parker, but after leftists told me I can't as he's not the same race as me, I've accepted I'm not white and will cancel my tennis membership. I mean, of course, that's the logical thing to do, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense.
Star Trekker. We went to movies and she took me to her rom-coms. I took her to action sci-fi movies and the balance was achieved. Both of us dislike modern crap mostly. Fair enough. Good choices there. Ken Fuller says Blake 7 was the best show ending. Oof, that was a bleak one. I think pretty much everyone just got killed. It was weird. Dark Hierophant says Rome, Deadwood, and The Shield all had great endings. Fair choices. Fix Bennett says, Drinker, I have an idea to rewrite G.I. Joe. What's the best route to pitch it to? I want to set it as an origin in the 80s with a realistic Cobra. You'd have to go to like Hasbro or something, I would imagine then. They own the rights. Ty says, you guys ever watch Green Wing? Highly recommended. Did not, I'm afraid. Sorry. This is the last one. Minister of Hygiene says, this is my brother Darrow and my other brother Darrow. IFK. YK. What?
All right.
I mean, fair enough, yeah. Sorry, I can't give you more than that, but anyway, that's the last of our super chats. So thank you very much to you guys for sending them through. It's been incredibly generous of you. And yeah, you can see how much time we spent on this. There were so many of them. So I appreciate you sending so many to us. But yeah, probably the next time you see me and Mauler together will be on Thursday at the next open bar.
To talk about all kinds of current events.
Yay. So I guess we will see you there. But for today, that is all we've got. So go away now.
Bye.